This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
The federal government has upgraded 2 forest reserves in Bayelsa State to the status of national parks. This is in a bid to safeguard endangered species in the area. Now, according to the Conservator General of the National Park Service, this is Mr. Ibrahim Musa Goni. He says this process began as far back as 2011. The 2 forests that have been elevated are Apoi Forest in southern Ijo local government area and Edumenum Forest, which spans Ogbia and Nembe local government areas. The federal government has also earmarked an initial grant of 5 million naira to support the establishment of the parks, which are expected to create up to 100 jobs for people of Bayelsa. For more on this, I'm joined by Sheifumi Adebote. Mr. Adebote is an environmentalist and a youth advocate for the environment. Good morning and welcome to the conversation, Mr. Adebote.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure being here.
It's a pleasure to have you on. And just to start off, right, can you speak to us about the significance of seeing a forest upgraded to a national park? What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is really nice and very encouraging to see that this is happening at this time. And to answer your question very clearly, this is what it means. The forest reserve is being managed by the state government. However, national park is being managed by the federal government. And what that really speaks to is in terms of the attention that is given to the fund that goes into it, the skilled personnel that goes into it. In many cases, state governments do not really consider forest reserve as top priority for them to invest so much of the little they have. But in the case of the federal government, they are usually allocated projects that can be spread across these national parks. And so it is easier. I mean, in principle, it is easier and more sustainable to manage national park. But like I said, it's in principle and probably not what plays out on the ground.
So before we go further, explain that to us. What is the reality with national parks in the country?
Interesting. So maybe it's also good to give a little bit of context to this so that the listener understands that before now we have 7 national parks, or at least currently as we speak, we have 7 national parks across the country. And the first was in 1979 when the Gashaka Gumti National Park was created. And that alongside, the Kanji Lake National Park, I meant to say, was the first, while we have the biggest, which is the Gashaka Gumti National Park. And these 2 national parks are sort of the pride of Nigeria's national park when we talk about the skilled personnel that are there, when we talk about the management of the park. And I say this because I've also spent a lot of time in some of these parks. I remember way back in 2012, 2013, when I was doing a research and I was in Kanji Lake National Park for a few weeks. And it was there that I understood the reality of what really happens on this park. Now, it's meant to be this, huge protected area, fenced from public distortion, if you see it that way, for the primary aim of saying that both the fauna, that is the animals, and the flora species, the plants or trees, or all other forms of timber associated valuables are protected in their pristine state, or as in ways that do not have so much human interaction that then conflicts or sort of affects their existence. But what we've seen, as you probably know also, is that many of these parks have now become infiltrated, and it's because there's usually not so much funds, not so much skilled resources, not so much technical tools that is needed to uphold this park in the state that they should be. Mm-hmm. And so we have staff that are not protected, we have equipment that are not working, we have patrol vehicles that are reckless, we have weapons that are very ancient, and you cannot use this to really protect yourself. Not in the time that we have a lot of people, poachers and cattle herders, that are now moving their livestock into these protected areas, and this is continuously becoming a threat. You probably know that it's also been in the news that Boko Haram has also taken control.
Yes,
The Sambisa game reserve. Yeah.
Not just that, I think even the Kainji National Park recently came into the news for terrorist activity there.
That's right. Same thing for the Kamuku National Park also, which has been seen as a bandit, hideout.
It does raise the conversation that's been had around our forest guards and just how effective they are. But I want to come to finances now, right? The government announced that 5 million naira has been allotted to these 2 new national parks. And without going into too much detail, do you think that it's sufficient considering the realities you've just painted?
Clearly not. You probably know. Clearly not.
So let me ask you this. It's taken 13 years to see the process of these 2 forests upgraded to national parks. Is that typical? Can you share with us how long it would normally take? Or if it's all right that it took this long?
Yeah, so of course it took this long because you know that this decision was made during the time of President Goodluck Jonathan. But it's also interesting to know that there were 10 national parks that were, in quotes, designated and approved by this by the Senate at the time. So this is just 2 of the 10, and putting out just 5 million. It's just like, it's really insignificant. So it also speaks to the political will or the priorities of the government when it comes to, protecting our environment, protecting our national, think of it as national park, but also these resources that we have in the national park. And if it took 13 years to make this little progress, it means that until we have stronger political will, until we have government that prioritizes protection of the environmental, or that have these very core environmental values, we just may even have the remaining 8 not really becoming national parks in principle, and this one may not also be, there may not be so much difference between, the game reserves that it were before, or the forest area that it was before, and what a national park should be. So I really think, to answer your question, the delay and the amount of sum that has been considered for this speaks to what we think, or how we think of the environment in Nigeria from the government perspective, that is.
Mr. Debote, I do hope that we're going to see the other 8 responded to and addressed as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for joining me on the conversation today. Sheifumi Adebote is an environmentalist, youth advocate for the environment, speaking to me on the 2 forest reserves that have just recently gained national parks status. These are 2 forests, or rather national parks, based in Bayelsa, and the forests in particular, Apoi Forest in southern Ijo local government and Edumenum Forest, which spans Ogbea and Nembe local government areas.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.